The idea of this tasting is not to compare one with the other, but it's a great opportunity to get a feel for the context of Chilean terroir. And as Pedro explained, these two are from similar but actually different terroir within Maipo. And you can see in these two wines the difference that makes. Just those small differences, and more importantly, the winemakers allowing that terroir to be expressed. Casa Real, 2007. I think I'm right in saying that Casa Real is unique within Chilean wine, in that it is the only icon Chilean wine made from the same vines, the same vineyard, by the same winemaker since 1989. And that's an amazing thing to say. I think in Chile sometimes winemakers move around a lot. But I think there's a huge value in winemakers who've been in the same place for a long time, because you learn to understand the nuances of your terroir, those little differences year on year of what your terroir gives you, and you end up with a wine like this. Now, I think one thing we're going to come across today is when we're talking about fine wines, we are tasting wines that are quite young. And I think you get this in both these wines, don't you? These are still young wines. They're very young wines. And that's great. This is a Casa Real 2007, so it's already 5 years old. But it's still a baby. And I think that says a lot about the age-worthiness, the potential for development of these fine Chilean red wines. And age-worthiness is an intrinsic factor for me in a fine wine. Tasting Casa Real back to 1989 was like a journey, a wonderful journey. It was like a story told, a story of Chilean history told by one wine. And the style has changed. In 1989, this was fermented in Rauli. It's not made in Rauli anymore. But the style has changed, but the terroir stays the same. And I think in this wine, you get that wonderful sort of, there's an earthy character to it. There's a bay leaf, a herbal character to this wine. But more important than that is the nature of the tannin in this wine that tells me it's Casa Real. It's a beautiful, very fine, very food-friendly tannin. It's what I call a savoury wine. I'm not sure how well that translates, but it's a savoury wine. When I drink this wine and I taste it, I see the food that I want to drink with it. And I think in that sense, it's a wonderful wine. I think, as Cecilia says, with this wine, you need patience. This wine is, I believe, available in the Brazilian market now, but if you're buying it, you need to buy it and you need to wait. Because this wine in 5, 10, 15 years will be glorious. And I think the same could be said of the next wine as well, from melchor 2008. It's a year younger, but I think we get a sense of the Maipo alluvial terraces, the Alto Maipo terroir here. There are points in common between these two wines, but this is a different wine, isn't it? It tastes very differently, even though it's very young. I think there is, in this particular vintage of Dom Melchor, there is 3% of Cabernet Franc. Casa Real is 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. There's a little bit Cabernet Franc in this vintage of Dom Melchor. But as Pedro was saying, we think of Dom Melchor as a single varietal. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon wine. But really, it's a blend. Because Pedro has said there are 36 different soil types just within the Dom Melchor vineyard. Enrique takes 36 different wines, 40 different wines to taste, and then to blend to make the final wine. And that's where you get the complexity, the layers, and the harmony that you can see in this Dom Melchor. There is a lot of French inputs in Dom Melchor, and I think that's great. But really, this is a Chilean wine. It's unmistakably Chilean, and it speaks of its Alto Maipo terroir.